Hey, just so you know, you can unlock this cool new emblem by gifting 2 subs on Twitch to any Destiny live streamer beginning on this date and time. And completely unrelated, but at that date and time, I'll just so happen to be live on Twitch. What a coincidence, right? Thanks, love you, enjoy the video. Oh no, Starfire Protocol just got nerfed so bad that Bungie basically sent it off to the DCV. Whatever will we do? It's fine. It's not a big deal. You guys didn't think I'd leave you hanging, did you? That's why today I am here to present to you what I believe to be the new Solar Warlock Fusion Grenade meta build, the Verity's Brow cooldown juicing, grenade slinging, tree bark looking masterpiece. It's super strong on its own and certified incredible in team settings with your friends, clannies, or maybe even the everyday LFG squad. You might have already heard of this build, but this iteration of it shown in this here video has never been seen before. Why? Because I'll be showing you how to make it actually look good fashionably as well. A task that has proven quite difficult for most because, oh, this thing is kind of ugly. But we'll solve that and all of your fusion grenade throwing woes in the next few minutes. So sit back, relax, subscribe if you're feeling good today, and pull up that Mobalytics build guide link in the description for a visual aid to follow along with as we go. Welcome to your new favorite Solar Warlock build. Verity's Brow is a bit of a complicated exotic, but it makes up for its complexity and the benefits that it grants to your gameplay. While wearing Verity's Brow, elemental weapon kills that match your subclass element, in our case Solar, grant you a stack of death throws for 11 seconds, maxing out at 5 stacks. Every stack of death throws grants you an additional 50% base grenade recharge rate and 20% increased grenade damage, capping out at a 250% additional base recharge rate and 100% damage increase at max stacks. When throwing a grenade while in possession of the death throws buff, all nearby guardians, including yourself, receive the Feel the Flames buff for 5 seconds, which increases grenade recharge rate by 1000%. What's more is that the Feel the Flames buff can also stack, meaning that if you and a friend are both using Verity's Brow, both have stacks of death throws, and both throw a grenade, well, needless to say, you're going to be in for a good time. In addition to that, as the grenade thrower, you gain an additional stack of Feel the Flames on grenade throw for every nearby ally that you grant the buff to. So in raid settings, where you are clustered up next to 5 other guardians, you'll be proccing a 5-stack Feel the Flames buff pretty much every time with ease in any boss DPS phase. As stated before, solar weapons are pretty much essential for this build to acquire those stacks of death throws. But if you want to take it a step further, solar weapons with the Demolitionist perk will really take this build to the next level. I recommend options like the Borrowed Time Submachine Gun with Threat Detector and Demolitionist, the Zowli's Bane Kingsfall Hand Cannon with Explosive Payload and Demolitionist, or the best option in my opinion, the Retraced Path Trace Rifle with Subsistence or Perpetual Motion, and of course, Demolitionist. All of this grenade energy from death throws, Feel the Flames, Demolitionist, and many more benefits we'll touch on in a moment will feed into our fusion grenades, the premier Warlock grenade of choice, which is made quite literally twice as good with our first aspect, Touch of Flame, which makes our fusion grenade explode twice. Aspect selection number 2 will be Heat Rises, which on its own isn't particularly spectacular, aside from its melee ability refund from airborne kills. But when we pair it with our class ability of choice in Phoenix Dive, we create a 100% uptime healing buff that makes us damn near impossible to kill. This is because although Phoenix Dive grants the cure buff for a small heal on activation normally, that benefit is upgraded to a restoration ×2 buff while Heat Rises is active, which equates to a 65 hit point heal, or 1/3 of your total HP every single second. And with our first fragment, that healing buff will be permanently extendable through the Ember of Empyrean, which extends the duration of all solar buffs like Restoration and Radiant by 4 seconds for every solar ability or weapon final blow. And that Radiant extension from the Ember of Empyrean will be important as well, since our second fragment slot will be occupied by the Ember of Torches to become Radiant when dealing damage with a powered melee ability. I highly recommend Celestial Fire as your melee ability of choice for this, as although it doesn't do quite as much damage as the Incinerator Snap, it has far more range, making it much easier to proc the Ember of Torches. And although it has a bit of a longer cooldown, that hardly matters considering that with Heat Rises equipped in our aspects column, any airborne final blow will pad up your melee ability energy quite nicely. Now, for your other two fragment slots, you have some options depending on what activity you are running, such as solo versus team-based, and what types of enemies you'll be fighting, such as large groups of squishy targets versus single large tanky targets. In any activity with a group, I highly recommend rocking the Ember of Benevolence for a big boost to your grenade, melee, and class ability cooldown regeneration when granting solar buffs, such as Radiant, to your teammates, which is very easy to accomplish with the Ember of Torches. For activities where single target burst is your priority, like raid bosses or Grandmaster Nightfall champions, I'd urge you towards the Ember of Ashes for 50% increased Scorch stack application to result in significantly more ignitions and therefore significantly more damage. Finally, if maximum class ability uptime is what you gravitate towards, specifically for the strength of some of our mods coming up, then I would recommend the Ember of Singeing for increased class ability regeneration when scorching enemy targets, made possible both through our Fusion Grenade and Celestial Fire. Now, this wouldn't be the new best Warlock meta build without a snazzy set of mods to back this all up. We'll kick things off as we do with all builds, with Reaper on the class item for Orb of Power generation from weapon final blows after class ability activation. You'll also want to slot a copy of Harmonic Siphon on your helmet for Orb of Power generation on elemental weapon multi-kills matching your subclass element, which in our case is solar. Finally, since this is a grenade build, you'll want to make sure to slot a stack of firepower onto your gloves for Orb of Power generation on grenade final blows. Collecting all of these orbs of power will of course give us stacks of armor charge to fuel grenade kickstart on our gloves for a nice chunk of grenade energy refund on grenade usage, scaling with the number of armor charge stacks we currently have. This makes it all the more important to run stacks on our boots to double the amount of armor charge stacks we receive from each Orb of Power pickup, and charged up on our class item to increase our maximum armor charge stack capacity from 3 to 4. And to make those orbs easier to collect, I love rocking the brand new Powerful Attraction mod on the class item to automatically collect all nearby orbs of power on class ability activation. The only thing you need to watch out for when using this is the fact that if you're currently in possession of the restoration buff and have Heat Rises active, this class ability activation will reset whatever your current restoration timer is back down to the initial value of 3 seconds. While playing, I didn't find this to be too much of an issue as long as I kept that fact in mind. Class ability activation will also help you out in a few other areas as well though, through mods like Bomber for a chunk of grenade energy on class ability activation, and through mods like Innervation for grenade energy on Orb of Power pickup or Orb of Power collection through Powerful Attraction. And finally, since this is a grenade build, it would be criminal to skip out on Ashes to Assets on the helmet for a big increase to super energy gains on grenade final blows to further fund that precious well of radiance. Along with slotting resist mods into the chest, you'll want to chuck stat mods onto all 5 pieces, prioritizing resilience, discipline, and recovery in that order. And as always, got a Destiny item manager loadout and Mobalytics written build guide link down in the description for you to easily copy and reference this build at any time. If those help you out, I'd appreciate it if you would also consider helping me out by liking the video and subscribing to the channel while you're down there. Now, using this build is a bit of a balancing act. You obviously want to be sure you're constantly throwing grenades to make use out of all of that built up damage and to buff your teammates' grenade regeneration rates as well. especially if they are also using Verity's Brow. However, it is equally important to weave Solar Weapon Final Blows in between as well to maintain your Death Throes buff, since after all, without Death Throes, there is no Field of Flames. And with no Field of Flames, there is no grenade spam goodness. If you need more buddies to take this build out for a spin with, I highly recommend the LFG channel in my Discord server linked in the description, which is full of kind, buildcraft loving guardians just like yourself. And if this Verity's Brow build isn't hitting quite the way you want it to, perhaps my Sunbracers build will do a better job of filling that solar grenade build hole left in your heart from the Starfire Protocol nerf. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.